Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service. I like to see two of our old friends, Reverend Kashanti and Reverend Sada, both are here today. You're welcome to the service again. And all the monks and Mr. Nam and everybody here. And right now is Reverend Panyaloka is going to lead the meditation. Panyaloka, it was a little late, so in that case, just maybe 5 minutes meditation, okay? After the meditation, Sai Marjan is going to give a Dhamma talk.
Relax yourself. Take a moment to relax your mind. Close your eyes only if you are comfortable. Be seated with a comfortable position. It's time for us to practice the loving kindness thoughts. Practice your loving kindness with this guided meditation. Before that, take a deep breath and let it go. Breathe in and breathe out. Now practice these loving kindness thoughts. May my mind be filled with the thoughts of sensitive joy, equity, equity. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be healthy. May my heart become soft. May my words be pleasing to others. May my actions be kind. Happiness, peace, and tranquility in life. Systems, teachers, missions, free and peaceful. This practice comes meditation tools, seconds. Hear the sound of the bell. You can start meditation.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now is mic okay? All right. Thank you, Honorable Panyaloka. Thank you again for everybody. It was a little late because some kind of technical problem here. Maybe our mic is no good, battery is no good. I'm not sure what it is. We have to check later. However, right now is time for the Dhamma talk. Today our speaker, Mr. Sai Maharjan. I think we have to talk to either Professor Maharjan or the Dr. Maharjan. So he's doing both. He's getting both right now. So I'm glad to talk with you last few days ago regarding about the Dhamma talk. Basically, he's going to give a talk every second Sunday of the every month, whole year. He promised me he's going to do it. So that's a wonderful things. And I believe his teaching is accept everybody and well-known teacher. He's a lot of experience. Sai, it's time for you right now. You can start your Dhamma talk.
Thank you, Bante. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to wish you all Happy New Year. We're still, I think, in a Happy New Year range, right? And like I think I shared with you all in last gathering, I will be developing a schedule because Bante requested me to give a talk every second Sunday of the month. So rather than talking about different topics, I plan to choose a couple textbooks. That's what I just posted on chat. So if you can go there, you can download those two textbooks. They are, one of them is on Abhidhamma, a comprehensive manual of Abhidhamma, translated by Bhikkhu Bodhi. And the first one I added there is The Question of King Milinda. Those two textbooks I will be using. And if you're interested in in-depth knowledge, I highly recommend to read some of the sections. And my primary goal is to talk about the Abhidhamma that will be close to us, that will bring us close to the Buddha's original teaching. And I hope you will take some notes if that helps to you to stay engaged. Like, I teach on a campus, and I give them exit ticket in the beginning of my class, because we get fooled that, oh, I remember everything. But after you get up, and there's an analogy in Pali, a person collect food on their lap as they were sitting, and they forget to get a proper basket. When they stand up, everything is spilled. So that could happen to Dhamma knowledge. You're assuming you remember everything, and when you get up, like, whoa, what was the last thing or one thing I remember? You may not have good recollection. It's not that you're not good at memorizing, but that's the human nature. We get fooled by our short-term memory. So if you go along, and I hope I will be able to guide you toward some really interesting Dhamma topics. So having said that, I want to start with a story about a king. I was trying to find the English term, and this king used to be around 1st BC, and he was known as Menander in English. In Pali, we call Milinda. He was a Greek king. He used to be a ruler of Bactria. It's a part of in northern Africa, Afghanistan. So those days when Alexander the Great was expanding his region, they reached close to Indian subcontinent. And you can find more background story about the history in the Question of Melinda book. But the reason I wanted to start on that story is that the king, and there was a well-learned monk named Nagasena. They had a dialogue. It's an extensive dialogue, and this is the last collection of Buddha's teaching in Tripitaka. So if you're not familiar with the Tripitaka, it's the 3 baskets of Buddha's teaching. And this Tripitaka has been developing since the Buddha's time, and it continued to expand. And the very last part that you see in this Tripitaka is one of the 5th collection, we call Khuddaka Nikaya. And in there, the very last book is Milinda Panya in Pali. And the translation is the Question of King Milinda. Not every tradition include that book in part of Tripitaka. And I know that Burmese tradition do, because of the richness in that textbook. And so there's a little bit of background story. And in that story, this king was about to start an argument with scholars. And he tried to find different monks. There was another famous monk that he tried to debate. And the king basically asked, do we all need to become monks? Do we need to be ordained to achieve the highest enlightenment? And the monk said, no, we don't need to become monk or ordained to achieve the enlightenment. And the king's response was, then there must be some kind of bad karma that monks are receiving, that they have to live such an auspicious life. They have to go through such a hardship for the sake of enlightenment. If you can just become enlightened by not being monk, why bother ordination? So the Bhante was not able to explain any further, but the king showed that he's very skilled in debates. So that's where he sought another monk, Nagasena. And when they met, and again, it's a long story, but at the very first meeting, as normally you ask yourself, introduce yourself, hey, I'm Sailesh, what's your name? So he did the same thing with this Bhante Nagasena. He asked, what is your name? How you are known as? What you're known as? And because knowing the king and his nature, Bhante responded, I am known as Nagasena. That is the name my parents gave me, and that is the name that people refer when they talk about me, but it's just a matter of conventional name. That is nothing me. And that throws off the king. Like, what do you mean? Nagasena, so you are not Nagasena? Is that what you're saying? And the Bhante went on explaining, well, that is conventional truth. That is conventional reality, because we need to use language to understand the world, but that does not represent the actual things in the world. And I'll go back to that story. And why I started with this introduction is because when we talk about Buddhism, we have a lot of variations. I'm sure some of you have studied Theravada Buddhism, like I did, and some of you have studied Mahayana tradition, where teaching is somewhat different, and some of you may have studied Vajrayana and some other Tantrayana. So different yana means almost like a ism. So within Buddhism, there's so many different groups and traditions. Now, one thing I know in common that we all have in all of this Buddhist tradition is that we all seek enlightenment. We all go for that path toward the ultimate deliverance or the enlightenment, which is free from suffering, right? Who doesn't want it? We want to be free. And in order to achieve that goal, but we have some homework to do, just like any other task. And that's where you see the Buddha's teaching is divided into three different sections. The first one is pariyatti, as the studying Buddhism. And some people may think like, I don't want to study, I just want to be enlightened. It may not be practical because there should be some level of theoretical knowledge that you should have earned and gained from studying, from questioning, from dialogues, so on, right? The knowledge, the different source of knowledge. I think I talked about it in last meeting. So pariyatti means studying the Dhamma. You learn, and that's why if you are familiar with South Asian Buddhist tradition, we have Sunday school, and we call them pariyatti. In Nepal, we call pariyatti siksha, the education of pariyatti. That is, we teach young children what is Buddhism from the very basics, right? Triple gems, the five precepts, and so on. And we continue to build our knowledge on that. So almost every Sri Lankan has gone through at least some level of pariyatti education. So studying of Buddhism is one very important part. And the second part is patipatti. The second term, patipatti, refers to practice. Now, what you study in theories, what you have learned from different books, and basically when you say pariyatti, and just to go step back, you're studying the teaching, the discourses of the Buddha. That is the collection we call Sutta Pitaka. And the second collection is Vinaya Pitaka, where you find disciplinary codes, where Buddha has laid out some ethics, some rules for monks, and of course, some for lay people. Now, the line, when you draw that line between lay people and ordained individuals, the only difference would be what is your goal. And if your goal is enlightenment, because I have lived both lives. I was a Buddhist monk for 16 years, and I saw the application of monastic training in both lives. It has little to do with, whether you're a monk or not a monk. For example, yesterday we had a small gathering for my daughter's birthday, and Simon and I, a very good friend of mine, we were talking about some of the reflections. And I shared with him when I was monk. I was monk since 12 to 26, 28, I think. Within that period, my teachers, my proctors, they taught us to reflect on 4 things every day. So that was our everyday practice. And those days, being a young, 13, 14 years old teenagers, we hated it, to be honest. We didn't want to chant. It was tedious. Every morning, 6 in the morning, we have to chant 4 suttas. And evening, we have to do that again. We didn't care much about the meaning, but it was very tedious. One thing that did good was how I see those practices now. So just to keep it short, those 4 practices were, you have to reflect or recollect the Buddha. We call Buddhanussati. And we have to reflect and recollect on Asubhanussati, on the repulsion, which is impermanence of body. And the third one is you have to recollect and reflect on death. the human nature, the dying process. It's a beautiful. People laugh sometime when I say I love that sutta on death, because it's a perfect explanation how life is, how ephemeral it is, how impermanent it is. And the last one is recollection on metta, loving kindness. So these four: reflection on Buddha, repulsion, death, and loving kindness, that was considered everyday practice for novices. We were just barely 12, 13 years old. We were asked to chant it, think about it, read the meaning. And just to connect why it is so important to learn some of those Vinaya rules, whether you're a monk or not monk, is that reflection helped me in many part of my life. When I lost my teacher, when I lost my grandparents, when I lost my very dear friend, who used to be in IBMC, he was young, and we lost him untimely. And in those moments, of course, human nature, we feel strong emotions because we are connected. We are attached to our friends and families. But that does not mean you have no other tools. So Buddha's advice on reflecting on these four subject matters help you to compose yourself in those moments. And just like any other skill, you want to become a good runner, you cannot just start a marathon overnight. You cannot just, okay, I'm going to do 5K tomorrow and just like sleep well and get up and run. You might end up in hospital because it's a major intake on your body. You need to build the stamina. You need to train yourself to that endeavor. And the same way, when you think of like practicing Dhamma, bringing Dhamma into life, we have to have that like muscle memory. We have to have that our mind trained to think from the Dhamma perspective. And when time comes, like death, loss, separation, divorce, or dissatisfaction in life, we are a lot better than somebody who doesn't have that knowledge. So I was talking about this with Simon, and I'm trying to tell you that the rules that we see in Vinaya is not only for monks. We cannot separate. They are for humans, those who are in pursuit of enlightenment, and they help a lot. And that is the Vinaya Pitaka. And the last one is Abhidhamma, philosophical psychology of Buddhism. It's a richest content. It's a little dry. That's the book I shared with you, Comprehensive Manual of Abhidhamma, which is almost like a summary of 7 epic long books written by Venerable Anuruddha a long time ago. He tried to summarize, extract all the essence from 7 different, I say 7 books, it's actually more than 7 books. There are more than 1 book for each section. So there are 7 sections of Abhidhamma. He extracted the essence from all of them and made a small book called Abhidhammatta Sangraha. And that book was translated by, first, I think, Nyanaponika, then later Bhikkhu Bodhi cleaned it, made it a little more comprehensive, more clear. So Abhidhamma has more deeper Dhamma because it tried to remove all the conventional terms. It tried to remove the stories and analogies. It talked about the ultimate truth. So when you study those 3, we call you're practicing, you're studying pariyatti. And once you have, you don't need to master all of them. You need to know, just like, you don't need to be the Google scholar, the Google map expert to go anywhere. At least you need to know how to type the address. You need to know the zip code. You need to know the proper lanes and the traffic rules, just like that. You don't need to master the entire Tripitaka to start your practice, but you do need some guidance because learning Dhamma, how I see is, it's like you're cleaning the path instead of trying different routes. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, we might take more longer. We just learn what's the right path to follow. So learning Dhamma is definitely an important part for anybody, no matter what tradition you follow. And the second one is practice. Now, practice comes in 3 layers. The first one is sila, the moral practice. We try to restrain our senses, which is considered the foundation of spiritual growth. That's how Buddha talks. Sile patithaya naro sapanyo. When somebody tries to overcome obstacles in life, the first thing the Buddha recommends to do is, well, you need to base yourself in some moral guidelines, some ethical principles, and 5 precepts. We can talk all day long. The Buddha explained that that's almost universal, because if you look at each precept, not to kill, not to steal, not to engage in sexual misconduct, not to lie, and not to intoxicate, these 5 precepts in any country, I don't know all, but most of them will consider it illegal. So you engage in any of those behaviors. The Buddha's attempt to give us this 5 precept is just don't get yourself into trouble, so you can continue your spiritual journey. And he added one more thing in that practice part. Refraining is one aspect. Just not killing does not make you a good moral person. What you have to do is the opposite. So panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhyami. I will abstain from killing and hurting living beings. The opposite of that is I must help to preserve lives. I must help to save lives. That's the doing part, opposite of the abstinence. And same thing with the stealing. Now, abstain from stealing does not make you a moral person. I must make effort to practice generosity, letting go, giving, sharing, helping others by your money, energy, and wisdom. And same thing goes with the rest. So, if you have a question, I can answer the rest. But just to keep with our topic, that practice starts with the moral guidelines, sila. And samadhi is the next layer in practice, which is our mind. Now you restrain your speech and body through moral practice. Next part is, now we need to train our mind. Mind is, in Pali, pavasaramidang bhikkhave chittang. Our mind is, by nature, it's pure, it's clean. So I might be not using the proper word here. So pabhasa means it's clear, it's transparent. Our mind is not polluted by the origin. What pollutes is agantukehi sankilite dhammehi sankilitam. There are these guest thoughts, or in Abhidhamma term, the concomitants, the mental factors that comes to our mind pollutes the mind. And that's how it becomes heavier and weightier. So if you know that the very origin, the starting point of our thought is, or consciousness is clean, that's what we're trying to get to. So sometimes people don't see it. The enlightenment is not possible if our mind is dirty or polluted by nature. It is not. It gets polluted when you start perceiving the world based on desire, based on hatred, based on ignorance. That's how your consciousness get polluted. And that's how it invites more unwholesome thoughts and move away from wholesome thoughts. So the Buddha's attempt in all these steps is, okay, you need to know how consciousness work. And once you know how it works, you start learning to put that into practice. And the very first part of practice is concentration. In Pali, we call it samadhi. And concentration is a pre-Buddhist meditation technique. It existed even before the Buddha, and Buddha used it. Of course, he was not against everything before himself. There were some good skills that people have harnessed, and he used it. And this skill can be used to train our mind to be one-pointedness. So if you remember practicing meditation, sitting down and focusing on your breath, it is a type of concentration, because we can have 1 million thoughts in every minute, right? Constantly changing the topic, jumping from one idea to another, like a monkey-mindedness is always there. But samadhi help you to train, okay, yes, I can go crazy with my thinking. Can I go the opposite of crazy, like little focused on one-pointedness? And one of them is, of course, focus on breath. And there are many, there are 10 actually different types of concentration. anusatis in the Theravada tradition. And the others are, you can focus on the Buddha. You can use Buddha as the object and focus on him. And how do we do that? Well, some people try to use the actual image or the statue of the Buddha to practice Buddhanusati. And you hold that image in your eye, you visually capture that image, and you concentrate on Buddha's qualities. Itipiso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho, so on. There are 9 qualities explained in that brief homage to the Buddha. You can reflect on each one. Why he was called Bhagava, because he destroyed all the defilements. He is the destroyer of the defilements. So you reflect on that quality. You stay with that quality and concentrate, and you move on. And eventually the object of Buddha becomes very vivid in your mind. So you don't need to see the object anymore, and you can focus on that object to develop strong concentration, and you can advance further. So the point is, in practice, like you restrain your body and speech through sila, through concentration, you can restrain your mind. You can help your mind to stay focused on one object. And once you have developed this one object or one pointedness, the next one is panya, wisdom. And you are surpassing the practice of concentration, samadhi. How? Well, first you restrain your body and speech through sila, the moral practice, and you train your mind through concentration. Now, it's a lot cleaner. Just like, the Buddha's analogy is, if you try to dye a piece of cloth in a different color, let's say red, if the cloth is already dirty, the dye may not capture well because the cloth has already some spot on it, right? But if you take a piece of clean cloth, you washed it, you dried it, and it's now just the one single color, flat color, whatever it is. Now you can choose any dye to make it a different color, turn into a different color. So the process is almost analogical to the precepts. By precept, you're washing it, you're getting rid of all the possible distractions, right? You restrain your speech, you restrain your body. And the concentration is like, now you have only one color in that cloth, single color. It's white or red or blue. And you choose wisdom to penetrate, to turn into a different color. Now, wisdom is very specific. That is only available in Buddha's teaching. This is not pre-Buddha's teaching. Wisdom is related to insight. We call insight meditation or vipassana or vidarshana in Sanskrit. That has to do with not just the one focus, one pointedness. Now you are thinking about impermanence. You're thinking about dissatisfaction, and you're thinking about no selfness. Now I said thinking, but actually it's not thinking per se. You're not like thinking, oh, things are impermanent. No, that is knowledge. The knowledge is different from wisdom. Wisdom has to do with you experience that impermanence in yourself. Sometimes it could be inside your body. Sometimes it could be something related to outside. So impermanence can be experienced. And when you experience impermanence, we call you have the wisdom of reality as they are, yatha bhuta jnana, right? You develop this knowledge or the realization of things as they are. So that's how you develop panya. And so moving on to impermanence, dissatisfaction, and no selfness. Now, this is possible through practice. And the last stage of Buddha's teaching, so pariyatti, study, patipatti, practice, and pativeda is realization. That's where you come to fruition. You achieve a goal, whether it is one stream entry, we call sotapanna, or once returner, sakadagami, or non-returner, anagami, and arhanta, or fully enlightened. So that is the last stage we call pativeda, so realization. So these 3 steps, pariyatti, patipatti, and pativeda, that is possible, and that can be done once you have some level of exposure to Buddha's teaching on Abhidhamma. And that's what I wanted to, share with you in next 12 months. And I'm going to continue reference in those books. And if you can read a little bit, you may have some good questions, we can engage in good dialogue in there. And just to open in that Abhidhamma, very first thing it distinguishes is the attempt will be made to tell what is the difference between Sammuti Satya and Paramatta Satya. Satya is truth. So Sammuti is conventional truth, and Paramatta is ultimate truth. Now, the story I shared with you at the beginning, Bhikkhu Bhante Nagasena said that the name Nagasena, or you can take any other name, the name Judy or name Sailesh, is just a conventional truth. Why it is conventional? Nothing about Sailesh is related to me. It's a reference. It's a reference that refers to a person who has such and such characteristics. Now, I can use that for myself. If somebody asks, so which part of you is Sailesh? Well, is your eyes or nose or your dark skin, like my daughter says, that is dark, or any of that is Sailesh? No, that is just a part of it. You're referring to the skin color. So is it my feelings, my sadness, my happiness, my joy, my anger, my any of those mental concomitants or feelings are any of those Sailesh? Not really. And you take the little more anatomically, you look into inside. So is my heart, is my brain, is my lungs or any of the organs Sailesh? Not really. You have name for them now. You further analyze the body, you cannot find the essence who is Sailesh in me. The same thing was explained by Bhante Nagasena. So the point here is that, well, we use conventional. We agreed that when certain person is represented by these 5 aggregates, in Pali we call 5 aggregates, Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, right? Matter, feelings, sensation, mental disposition, and consciousness. When 5 of these aggregates are combined together and manifest in a certain feature, that person is Sailesh. So that 5 aggregates, that's what we refer to as a person. But it's a conventional truth. We all agreed to say when these aggregates are together, we call it Sailesh. And when you look at another object, well, you look at the bottle, if it has something to capture water, it's a cylinder shape or I don't know, a cube shape with a cover, and it holds some water in there. We agreed that we call this a bottle. Now, nothing of this object is bottle. So the conventional truth helps us to communicate, and Buddha is not against it. He used conventional. The language itself is conventional. We have hundreds of languages across the world. We need that. Otherwise, I don't know how we communicate. It's a great tool that we can use, but we shouldn't be fooled by it. So Buddha used conventional language to teach us the ultimate truth, which is Paramatta Satya and Paramatta Dhamma. Now, what is Paramatta? Now, if you take, to make it little simple, if you take anything, now I talked about being named certain way, Sailesh or Judy or Nagasena, you are now going to analyze that person or object. When you analyze, you go further and further and further, right? Not to the atomic level, but from the Buddhist point of view, you analyze them to the final part of it. And when you see in 5 aggregates, nama, the name, or that is collection of 4 mental factors, or rupa, the form or the matter, you cannot further analyze. There is no any further analysis of it. Yes, they are conditioned, but there is no further analysis of it. That's the final step. That's what the word ultimate. It's not the highest, so to speak. It's the final. So people misunderstand when you talk about ultimate truth. It's like the highest no, truth. No, it's not the highest truth. It's the very end of the analysis. You cannot go any further. So we will see that Buddha used that term to refer to Paramattha Dhamma, ultimate truth. And they have few categories. So in Abhidhamma, that's what you see. You don't see any of the conventional truths. Yes, we use language, but we see what are these four ultimate truths. And actually, there are four. I didn't say that earlier. So there are four ultimate truths in Abhidhamma, and each one has subcategories. So we'll just stop at, what are those four and the number, so we can talk more. And the reason I wanted to talk about Abhidhamma is it's nothing, and it's not difficult. It's not alien teaching. It's not for only for people, those who meditate every, for months and so many days. No, this is everyday necessity. We need to know the teaching of Abhidhamma, so we start perceiving Dhamma in a much closer way. So that's the purpose, and I hope we will achieve that to some extent, in this year-long discussion. So the four ultimate truths are: the number one is consciousness. In Pali, we call chitta, and that has 89 pieces, or 89 components, or 89 types of consciousness. That's a lot. I don't think I'm going to talk about all of them, but at least it helps to see our consciousness can take 89 different forms. And they're not all indigenous to humans. Some of them are indigenous to certain life spheres. So we will see that later. And some of them are indigenous to enlightened ones, and so on. So 89 types, and sometimes it is counted as 121. So either 89 or 121 is types of consciousness. It's just one mind. It can take 89 forms. It can have those different categories. And how does that happen? Well, sometimes they are based on desire, right? Lobha. Sometimes it's based on hatred, dosa, and sometimes it's based on ignorance. Actually, ignorance is pretty much common in any type of unwholesome thoughts. We'll get there. And the second ultimate truth in Abhidhamma is the mental concomitance. So what is considered mental concomitant? Oh, by the way, when we say five aggregates, the fifth one in five aggregate, consciousness, is what we just said, the first ultimate truth, which has 89 types, right? And there are three more mental factors in five aggregates. That is feeling, perception, and mental dispositions. They're sankharas, many forms. And first two, feeling and perception, are considered two mental concomitants, that like a mental factors. And there are 50 types of dispositions, and they can take many form again. They can be wholesome ones, they can be unwholesome ones, and there are some neutral ones. Like the moment when an enlightened one smiles, we call that it's just a very neutral. It's not a happy or sad, it's a neutral expression of emotion. So in other terms, it's like there are 52 types of mental factors or thoughts that you can have. That's second category or second type of ultimate truth. And the third one is matter or rupa. In Pali, it's called rupa. And as it is translated, it's a form, it's a matter. And when you say matter, people misunderstand. Oh, it's something that you can see. Well, yes, and also no. Big no and small yes. Why small yes? Because there are 28 types of forms, and only one form is visible. The rest, 27, is invisible. So even we call it form, it's not like referring to like all the colors and shapes and size. It's actually referring to the quality, because again, we're talking about ultimate truth, which should not be further reductible. So if you tell, oh, this is one of the forms, like a black is one of the forms in the glass, well, you can analyze further. It can be reductible. So the 28 forms are, only one of them is visible. That's cognizable to our eyes. The rest, it's the quality. in those forms. And the last one is the enlightenment or nibbana. And there are, of course, 8 of those, but the consciousness, but enlightenment is just one. That is eradicating or overcoming all the defilements. It's a state of mind. And that enlightenment is separate from the other first 3. So the first 3 is called Lokiya or mundane, ultimate truth. And the last one, the enlightenment, is called supramundane. That is no more conditioned. So the first 3, they are conditioned. There is the cause or there's a root for it. And the last one, the enlightenment, the very only ultimate truth of enlightenment is supramundane or without any cause. It's free from condition. And that's why it's we call it it's a state of mind that will not reverse back to normal life. So I think that was a little bit a lot, but that's how Abhidhamma, the book will talk more, and I'm trying to have a little dialogue. So I hope you will join again, and we will have some fun learning about Buddha's teaching. Like I said, these ideas, the teaching of Abhidhamma, it's intimidating to some people. They choose to not study for a long time because, whoa, that's a lot of numbers. Well, it's just a number, right? And you don't need to be intimidated. And more you read through and you look at it, you start to see, oh, I see. There when you have a thought, there are 7 mental factors. It's always present. And no wonder Buddha said, for example, this is what I was referring to. So I'm just thinking in my head, I assuming that you know what I'm thinking. That's like curse of knowledge, right? Like anytime you have a thought, there is vitakka vichara, there is a one-pointedness, there is intention, there is volition present, there is one-pointedness present, there is contact, there is sensation. So there are at least 7 of them. They're always present. Anytime you have a thought, these 7 consciousness is always present. So no wonder Buddha did not refer to any action as karma. He referred that any intentional action as karma. So anything that we do, like unless it's like a accidental, so to speak, like you did not have a thought at all, that is not considered as karma. But if you did, and you then I didn't mean to, no, you when you have a thought to do something, you already meant it. There is no way you didn't mean to in that point. So anyway, I'm excited to tell you, more you learn about these analyses and the teachings of Abhidhamma, you start putting it together, how karma works, how our mind works, and how we can overcome, actually, how we can stop some of those. And also, the other part is when you know more about the nature of mind and this Abhidhamma teaching, you are actually exponential. I don't know if that is a term. Like your practice of Dhamma will be on steroid. There you go. That's a better term, right? You're not just like doing it, you're doing with so much wisdom, right? You give something, it's not just like you're letting go. You have so much wisdom about giving. You sitting down and practicing meditation, you're not just doing because you have to do it. You have so much wisdom about the process and what you did. That's huge. To me, that's very important in our very busy life. So I look forward to talk more, and I hope you will join in these meetings and ask good questions and share your knowledge as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sai. If you have any question, very briefly you can ask.
I have one question.
Yes.
So for next week, should we read a little bit of both books, or just the one? And how much should we try to read before we meet, or 2 Sundays from now, rather?
Is it John?
Yes.
Is it John? Oh, hi, John. I think I'm not going to be talking next week. I'll be talking next month. So when we come back next month, if you can, and if your time allows you, just read the first chapter. That's on page 23. That's a lot,
Okay.
but you just start reading a little bit on there, and we will build on, your knowledge, and we'll have a nice dialogue. So it will be second week of February, second Sunday of February. I don't know. I think Bante will give me the dates, and once I have it, I'll let Bante know. I can give you like a chapters. I'm going to focus more on the manual, not the Milinda Prashna, because it's more like a stories I can relate. But here, this is more organized. A comprehensive manual of Abhidhamma is much better reference for us. So if you read the compendium of consciousness, that will be really helpful when you come back.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you again. I think does anybody have any question? Yes.
Yes, I'm interested in becoming a monastic. Can you tell me more about?
Oh, okay. I'll talk after the service, okay? I'll talk to the after the service, because right now it's almost 12 o'clock ready.
Thank you, Bante.
Okay, thank you, Sai. See you soon.
Yes, Bante, when there is no question, there are two possibilities. One, I was very clear to the point, or I made nothing sense there. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I'll see you back in a month.
All right. Thanks again. Okay, we'll chant the page 4 and page 6. No. Oh, 10. No, I was thinking when you are here today, we're going to chant the Prajna Paramita Sutra also. So again, next Sunday is going to give a Dhamma talk, which is Stephen Subodha. He's going to give a talk next Sunday, I believe 15th, and the 22nd of the third Sunday, Sanat Vihar is the Mexican monks. We call them Mexican American monks. He's going to give a Dhamma talk, and 29, we are planning to have a New Year, Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year, blessing of the Lunar New Year, and we are planning to give a lunch also for the monks and lay people. Please come and join with us, and we offer the gift for the lay people, whatever offer, we will take it. So it's going to be 29 May in the calendar, Lunar New Year celebration. Right now we're going to chant the page 4 and page 8 and page 10. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Saranam Gacchami Dhammam Saranam Gacchami Sangham Saranam Gacchami.
clearly saw all five skandhas are empty and must be suffering. Sari does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. Form and is emptiness. Emptiness and is form. Sensation, perception, volition, and consciousness are also like this. With emptiness, not more and not being, not staying and not gaining and not losing. Therefore, within emptiness, there is no form, no sensation, perception, volition, no consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or numbers, no realm of sight till we come to transcendence. No ignorance and no ending of ignorance till we come to know knowledge and no ending of ignorance. No suffering, origination, extinction, wisdom, and no attainment with nothing to attain. Because the Buddha hindrance, having no hindrance, there is no fear and far from fantasy, there is dwelling in nirvana. Because all Buddhas of the three times follows Krishna, Nita, they gain complete, perfect enlightenment. Therefore know that the Snajna Paramita is the great holy mantram, the great wisdom mantram, the wisdom mantra, the unequal mantram, which can destroy all suffering, truly real and not false. So he gave the Prajna Gita mantra, which goes Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhisattva, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhisattva, Gate, Gate, Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Deep passions are inexhaustible. Defend them all. Our gates are limitless.
I vow to study them all as supreme. I vow to attain it. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fearless be. May the grieving shadow all grief, and the sick find health relief. May we Mani Thank you again for everybody. Thank you for the who's been here with us today. And next week, again, the Subodha is going to give a talk. After that, Sanata Vihari. And 29th, after this month, we are celebrating Lunar New Year. We are providing lunch also. Please come and join with us. Temple is open every Sunday. Around 10 to 12, 12:30, whatever time. Please come and join with us. Thanks again for everybody. By the power of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, all the Bodhisattvas, you will be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.